for me, it was probably the most nurturing, loving, caring, heartwarming atmosphere on set. You could really feel the love that they had for the film, for the material, for all of us, for everyone on set. The way they also motivated us and explained scenes, or how, not really explained scenes, but if they wanted something out of us, they had a way of, especially Kelly, had a way of of prodding that gently out of us in the most intelligent, caring, and sensitive way.
I agree with that. I agree with everything you say, Dolly. I do. Not just about this, but I mean everything. Yeah, yeah.
Hello, Keith and Dolly.
Hello.
Hi, Tomris.
So let's start first of all with a basic question for both of you. Tell me about your beginnings with this project. Maybe we can start with Dolly. How did you get involved with Ghostlight?
I actually got involved with Ghostlight because of my fabulous manager, Adam Kirsch. Because his client is also Kelly O'Sullivan and Alex Thompson. And they needed someone to play Rita. So Adam graciously volunteered me. And I fell in love with the script. I fell in love with it. And I mean, to be able to play someone so close to who I really am, who's a struggling actress, who started in the theater, who is passionate about the theater and is even willing to do theater for free, and hopefully touch a gentleman's life, and make, him open his eyes to the world. And I fell in love with it. That's how it started.
And how about you, Keith? I think you and Kelly collaborated on a stage play before, so tell us about that.
Yeah, Kelly and I did the original version of The Humans, and in Chicago, and I played her father in that. And she wrote the script during the pandemic with me in mind. I didn't know that, but we did a reading of it at Steppenwolf, and afterwards I said, look, I don't know if you guys are auditioning, but I'd like to audition. And she said, well, I wrote it for you, so you have to audition.
How does it feel when a filmmaker tells you, they wrote that part with you in mind?
Well, it feels fantastic. I mean, yeah, doesn't happen a lot.
And Dolly mentioned this a little bit, but both of you have, a prolific career both on the stage and the screen, but you have stage roots as actors. Maybe tell us a little bit about how that background was perhaps helpful or instrumental for these parts.
I think it made my job really easy for this project because I can totally relate to Rita's struggles and her frustrations about, getting a job, being a working actor. It can really be frustrating. So I could totally sympathize with her. And, having actors back out last minute and having to find a replacement and seeing someone on the street who she sees some potential there. So I can totally relate to that part of it. And I think that another big thing also was working with the cast. They're all theater people from Chicago, and I just felt right at home with them. Even if we both came from different parts of the world, I felt like we all grew up in the same home, and we really connected and understood each other's language and shared the same ideals. And it was a really special creative process for all of us because we all came from the same background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The working in the theater extensively, there's a sort of community about it, much like filmmaking, but you come together and you make something and then you kind of disperse. I think the fact that I spent a lot of time in the theater gave me a sense of, the stamina it takes to do a 12-hour day. You don't normally do that in the theater except during tech, but you still have to have stamina to do it every night for 8 shows, and I think that served both of us well, and anybody that does the theater. And it's different, obviously. You're acting for the camera, which is a microscope, instead of an audience like this. But the results are the same. It's got to be based in reality and grounded. So,
and the family that we meet and watch in the movie is also a family in real life. You know, with Catherine, Tara, and you guys are a real family. So, what was that like to kind of bring your dynamic as a real life family to this movie? Did it make it easier or maybe trickier in some ways because you had to become other people together?
Well, I think it was helpful. My wife.
But you said helpful.
Maybe I did. I don't know. Yeah, a little bit of both. But my wife and I had worked extensively before, but this is the first time that my daughter and my wife and I worked together, and we didn't talk about it very much as far as what are you going to do. We would talk about certain aspects of the film or what the next day's shooting was going to be, but we didn't really talk extensively about it because Alex and Kelly were going to, it's their vision. So, and you keep the spontaneity. A lot of stuff, some of the stuff we would improvise, like the bathroom scene before the deposition when she said, "Aren't you going to shave?" And I'll say, "Shave it now." And then she said, "We don't have time." And I said, "Well, what'd you bring it up for?" That was kind of real life.
So I'm really curious. The part Dan was written, with you in mind. Were they also thinking then Catherine and Tara would come on board too,
No.
or did that sort of happen organically?
Yeah, no, that happened organically. We did a couple of readings, and my daughter read at one of them, and they really liked her, even though she thought she did a terrible job. But they really liked her. And then the casting director in Chicago, Mickey Pascal, said, "Look, if you're going to cast Keith and Catherine, then you got to cast Tara because that's stupid not to." And they did.
I just love that there are like layers and layers of meta elements to that movie because Alex Thompson and Kelly O'Sullivan are also a real life couple. So a real life couple directing a real family, playing, a fictional family.
Yeah, she was 8 months pregnant when she was doing it. She got COVID.
Oh no.
Yeah, remember?
Right, yeah. And she gave birth and her son's fine. He's okay.
It's a little early to tell, let's face it. No, he's a good boy.
I'm wondering if you could each tell us a little bit about working with them as co-directors. What stood out the most about their directing style? I love their previous movie too, St. Francis, but Kelly wrote that, didn't direct. I think this is the first time they're co-directing a project.
It was a different experience with them. I'd say for me, it was probably the most nurturing, loving, caring, heartwarming atmosphere on set. You could really feel the love that they had for the film, for the material, for all of us, for everyone on set. We were. I know it sounds like a cliche, but I really felt like we were in a family, like we were a family, because the expression "as above, so below," because they exuded this warmth towards everyone that we couldn't help but also be that way towards each other and look out for each other and treat each other with love and respect, and the way they also motivated us and explained scenes, or how, not really explained scenes, but if they wanted something out of us, they had a way of, especially Kelly, had a way of prodding that gently out of us in the most intelligent, caring, and sensitive way. I don't know, did you experience that with her?
I agree with that. I agree with everything you say, Dolly. I do. Not just about this, but I mean everything. Yeah.
What was it like for you to work with Alex and Kelly, in addition to agreeing with Dolly?
Yeah. Yes, it was like Dolly said. It was very easy to go to work, and you wanted to go to work because of that atmosphere. Everybody was there because they wanted to be there. You know, the cinematographer and the first AD, Alex, and all the guys, everybody. And it was easy to give them what they wanted because they were so easy to work with and not always knew what they wanted, but knew what they knew when they wanted more. And like Dolly said, Kelly and Alex both had a way of talking to you to not prescribe a certain thing, but to draw it out of you organically. So that's very special.
And I'm wondering about you two working together, because the relationship between Rita and Dan is very special in a lot of ways. Rita is instrumental for Dan to kind of navigate his feelings, make sense of what he is going through. How do you build this, beautiful chemistry and friendship that we saw on the screen, off screen? Did you do rehearsals, and what was that process like?
How did we do that?
I
really don't know how we did that.
I don't either. I think, we just kind of showed up and we just started working and trusted each other. And
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. He put it perfectly. We just showed up and trusted each other. We never talked about anything. We never planned anything. We never sat around the table and discussed it. We never did any of that.
No.
We just trusted the material and the leads of the film, Kelly and Alex, and I trusted Keith whenever we were in the scene together. And that's just, I'm sorry, it's not a very exciting answer, but that's really just what happened, right?
I was just like, hey, there's Dolly from Triangle of Sadness.
Oh, there's
better not-
Keith,
I
the
better not
Chicago
fuck up.
superstar from theater.
I was like, uh-oh.
I really thought that.
Like, no, I was like, I gotta rise to the occasion. So, yeah, I think that's true. We never.
No, we didn't.
yeah.
Yeah. It
I
was,
think,
was-
yeah, go ahead.
and I think it's, and I think because Keith has this air of just, he's just so real when he's in front of the camera. He's just there, and Dan is just there organically, and you have no choice but to just ride with his tide. I mean, just go with his flow and be there to support him because, he's the lead character, and it was so easy. It was just so easy to do, and I think I guess that's just how it works. If you're lucky enough to work with an actor like Keith, everything else is just follows. It's easy. How can you fail? How can you, right? It's true. It's true.
You're witnessing something really beautiful right now. Have either of you, as people with roots on stage, done anything related to Romeo and Juliet before?
I did. Yeah, I did. When I was in college, I was studying in the University of the Philippines, taking up drama. And every year, the university would submit an entry to the British Council speech contest, and they would hold this speech contest thing. It was an inter-university kind of competition, and I did the balcony scene with another actor, Dean Alfar, and we were lucky enough to win. We won. Yeah. So when I read the script and saw that we were going to do the balcony scene again, it's like, this is easy. I can do it. I've done it before.
One of the scenes I love in the movie is when you guys are doing those theater exercises. I especially love the provocative questions. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask a provocative question, or maybe I should. But I'm wondering if those exercises are familiar to either one of you, or is it always a part of a routine to kind of start a play or start a performance going through those exercises to kind of center yourself?
I think it depends on the company that you're working with. Some companies don't do that. Some companies do. But I'm familiar with all the exercises we did. But Keith was supposed to be Dan was supposed to be this guy who didn't know anything about theater, but he was the one teaching us all the exercises.
Right. You should tell us a little bit more about that. What is your usually a go-to exercise, or do you have, a routine?
I don't have a routine, and oddly enough, I know some of those exercises, but I really kind of hate them. And Dolly is correct about the companies. Some companies really like circle up and all that stuff before the show, and I find that really distressing to me. I don't like that. So, but I know a lot of them, and so does Tara. Tara knows more than I do. But once we were doing it, it was really fun.
It was so much fun.
And it does free you up. I'm not saying that there isn't value in them. It's just that I could do without them.
Your character then, to talk about him in a bit more detail, we obviously meet him at, a really bad point in his life, and he has all these like compressed feelings, and you're kind of playing him to remind us that there is this version of masculinity out there that is not necessarily in touch with feelings, not encouraged to express feelings, but then through the process that he goes through, then he meets another way of being, maybe more vulnerable. How did you kind of tap into that headspace and the journey that he went through in that manner?
I grew up with men from obviously another generation that were like that. My dad was a little bit like that, not to the point that Dan is, but. And I guess there's a certain element about that with me, but I'm not. I'm much more effusive when it comes to my emotions and stuff. But it was easy. I've worked with guys like that at when I was younger, menial jobs, and they cover it up real well. And they, a lot of times it's, unfortunately, it comes out as a lot of racism and misogyny, but that wouldn't have served Dan, because then you wouldn't have wanted him to, you would have hated him. It was easy to make the transformation into someone who is obviously more open. The subject matter of the death of a child is easy to tap into, especially when you're a parent, and you just kind of hold on to it for the length of the movie, which is not always fun, but it serves the purpose. So that was the key to make the transformation.
And was there a particularly kind of tough scene or sequence for you to get into, or maybe to get out of, because you go to some dark places in the movie, especially in that final hearing scene that we
Right.
see you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. How did you navigate that, and how did you kind of take yourself out of it?
Well, I think Kelly and Alex really helped a lot because, they didn't want me to lose it early in the film, which were a couple of scenes where you could. But the deposition scene, we did it, I think, 5 times, something like that, straight through. It was difficult a couple of times that, when you think about your kid dying, it's awful. So you just have to hold on to it and press it down, because that was his character, and it was tough not to lose it, because some of the lines there are so beautiful that you just looking at him when he was sitting on the trampoline. So yeah, that was a tough scene. The other tough scene was
In the theater.
in the theater with Dolly at the end when she's Juliet and I think she's dead because I'm saying goodbye to my child. So yeah. But other than that, pretty easy.
And Dolly, what was that scene like that for you in the theater?
Well, the scene in the theater was I was just dead, and Keith was doing all the work. But for me, the scene that really I was looking forward to seeing happen was the scene when Dan tells the company what happened to his son in the small space that they were rehearsing at, and he's facing the curtain. And when I read that, and then working with Keith for a few days. By that time, we had been working for a few days. I was so excited to see how he was gonna do it, and he did it so well. It was just so incredible. And when we did his coverage, after he did all of the whole beautiful thing of throwing the chair and telling his story about his son and all that, suddenly Kelly and Alex tell me it's my turn, my coverage, reacting to that. And I said, can we have Keith do it again, please? I need to see him do it again. And thank you, Keith. He did it again with the same level, at the same level, even if he was not on camera anymore. So I'll never forget that day. Thank you.
I also want to talk about this beautiful, very DIY production of Romeo and Juliet that we see. That it's a really inspiring way of art making that actually makes you understand why artists put themselves out there and do something sometimes for nothing. What was it like for you to kind of act out those scenes and have those beg and borrow costumes and have this really very DIY play? It probably brought you back to your earlier days in theater.
It was so much fun for me because I'd never experienced anything like that, really, because we don't have community theaters in the Philippines. I was only working at the university theater. So it was, I really had the first-hand experience of, they just brought a big box full of costumes, and then Kelly and Alex told me, okay, Dolly, your job is to just distribute the costumes and, make whomever wear whatever. And at the end of that, in the film, more or less, that's just basically Rita giving them whatever was in the box, what they were wearing in the performance. So that was a lot of fun to do, and it was nice. I was so privileged to be able to experience that and work with real theater people at that. It was really special.
Yeah. I used to have this when I used to belong to this community theater in Poughkeepsie, and we took ourselves very seriously. Yeah, we did. And I remember, we'd have to have our own costumes, and then we did a show. We did a version of, I think it was, I don't know, The Dumbwaiter, and there were 3 people in the audience, and 2 of them were my parents. And I said, I don't know, maybe I should be a doctor or something odd. Yeah, so it definitely harkened back to those days.
And Dolly, I want to give a shout out to another movie that you have in theaters right now, Between the Temples. Incredible movie if you haven't seen. And the reason that I want to bring it up is most of us met you in Triangle of Sadness, even though you have a career that dates back from that. So tell us a little bit about how your life has changed since Triangle of Sadness. I love seeing you in American Indies, and you have another TV project coming up, Nine Perfect Strangers with Nicole Kidman. So you're very busy, so tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days.
Well, you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I don't wait for calls anymore. I spent my whole life waiting for calls, just sitting and waiting and wondering when is the call gonna come. And sometimes some producers call me the day before a shoot, it was that bad, or sometimes the day of. But now I have time to prepare. I have time to really, flesh my character out and really study the script. I have a whole team supporting me, taking care of me, making sure all my needs are met. I have an agent who takes care of me, Jen. I have a manager, Adam and Chris, who help me, which I never had before. And I feel like I'm not so alone anymore. That's how it's changed.
Keith, what can we expect from you next? What are you working on these days?
Adam.
Can't talk about it.
Adam and Chris are also my managers, and there are a few projects. Another one with Kelly and Alex coming down the pike, probably at some point, and a few other scripts. But some TV work. That's about it. Yeah.
We'll look forward to seeing
Something.
both of your upcoming projects.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very
Keith
much.
and Dolly.
Thank you.
And thanks, everyone.